All right, it's 6:30. We'd like to welcome you to our city council meeting today. Thanks for being here. Not quite the crowd we had at the RDA. All council members are here. Mayor, GL, Brooke, everyone. Thank you for all being here. I have asked Zach, you have no idea, Zach, how close I came to saying Clark. And I'll explain that later. His last name is Smallwood. Okay, Zach Smallwood is going to lead us in our pledge. Thanks, Zach, for doing that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate you doing that for us. Okay. Next, we have two council meeting minutes to approve. We have August 24th, 2021, and our council meeting from September 7th, 2021. Are there any comments or corrections on those? If there are not, we'll ask for a motion, or if there is.
Can I approve both of them at the same time?
You betcha, absolutely.
I'll make a motion to approve August 24th, 2021 council meeting notes or minutes and September 7th, 2021.
I'll
2021.
second.
Sorry.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed, I guess I should say. All right, thank you. All right, we have our special recognition, and I'd like to invite Amy Lambert up, if she would come up with Karen Gallegos from our courts, and I'll be presenting that. You're laughing at GL? Well, GL, how do you like that? She's about the fifth person today that said that. I'm laughing at GL. Do you get that a lot? I love it, Karen. That's awesome. Well, we are excited to be able to present this to Amy. Amy has been with the city for 10 years? 10 years on Halloween. Never forget your date starting, huh? That's awesome. Well, we're excited. We'll let Karen tell us a little bit more about Amy, but from the council, we started this program about 8 years ago or so, and we Employee of the Month is Amy Lambert, and we will put your name back on the plaque there, and here's a certificate from the council.
Thank you.
And more importantly than anything, that $50 gift card. You betcha. And then we'll hand this off to you too. But Amy, we just want to tell you we appreciate all that you do. And as a council, we really appreciate our employees. We've been really lucky, blessed to have great employees. And so we just want to recognize you. And without further ado, we'll let Karen go ahead and introduce you a little more. Come on over here, Karen. I'm going to let you have the mic. All right. Thank you. We'll just give her a little hand there.
I don't need that. I'm very loud. Sorry. Amy hates this. I just want you to know, so I'm going to make this short and sweet. She quietly sat at her desk for 10 years, and I said, Amy, you've never been picked, and you keep telling me no, and this time we're going to do it since I got roped into it. And so
I almost had you. I was
she
like,
almost
yeah.
had me. Yeah, I have. No, you haven't. But Amy's a joy to work with. She's really good. She's thorough. We have a lot of fun at the court. And it's very nice working with her. So,
Amy, we'd like to have you say a few words. No, you don't have to say anything? Okay, well, just wave to everyone then, I guess. Look at that. Was that quick? I love it. I really opened that door for her to just wave, didn't I?
No, it's been a joy working for Murray. I don't know. Being here for 10 years, it's gone by really quick. It's been a lot of fun. There's been a lot of changes, especially over the pandemic. It's been rough, but it's good, and we're getting along, and it's a good thing. So we're doing what we can.
Awesome. You want to say something?
Amy, I just want to say congratulations and thank you so much for your service. We really appreciate it.
When someone says, and anybody can say whatever, but when someone says it's been a lot of fun, that makes me happy because I think you have to have fun to work. I mean, really, with as much goes on and you're here a lot of the time, and so to have fun, in my opinion, work hard but play hard. So that's awesome. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you again. All right. Thanks, Amy. Okay. Thanks, Karen. Look at Karen's not sitting back down. You can tell she's leaving. I love it. Oh, did you hear Karen? Did you hear Karen say she's sorry? I don't buy that. Oh, thank you. We're lucky to have great employees like that. Thank you. All right. Next we have on our agenda is citizen comments. And this will be for 3 minutes. Anybody can come up and address the council, please. And if you're going to speak, 3 minutes, and then we'll just have you fill out a form that Jennifer has right here for you. So is anyone here for citizen comments? Welcome, Janice. You laugh. I can't.
But anyway, I just want to thank you guys for all you've done today in really dissecting a lot of things about the RDA and the proposed project and for the design guidelines. And since it's all fresh in our minds, I wanted to just share with you a couple thoughts. I think one of the things that we've experienced as a result of the open house and the online feedback is how valuable that is to have when discussing projects, when discussing development of projects. So if there's a way that we can look at how that can be implemented into the process, instead of like at the end of the road, like it felt like could have been the situation with this proposed project. I mean, it would have saved the developer a lot of time. It would have saved the citizens getting on board a lot sooner. So when there's an ability, and we recognize now that the citizens really want to have some input. They want to, discuss this. So some kind of an open forum. I think what was brought up by Jill about Citizens Committee is a very valuable thing. And then when talking about the design guidelines, one of the things I brought up to Jared when we talked about this before is that sadly, and these design guidelines are just dealing with Murray City Center District downtown. They're not dealing with any other part of the city. And sadly, we have a bunch of built environment in downtown. And the design guidelines are not really addressing the built environment and what can be done, or the suggestions that can be given for those owners of those built buildings to be more enhancing for the community, to be more of value to them and to the businesses that would want to be there. And so I really think that that's missing something if we don't address what we can do to help provide some ideas to the built environment of our downtown. And then, so, how can we help revitalize the buildings? What suggestions can we give for those buildings? Because so many of the suggestions that were given were things based on new development. So what suggestions can we give for revitalizing buildings? Then, as we saw with the way that I'm understanding things are working right now in the MCCD, if a project meets all the zoning ordinances and isn't, now that we've got the new mixed use in place, if it isn't of a larger parcel of land, then all that's required for an approval of a building in the MCCD is for it to go to design review and them to provide their suggestions and have it go either get redone a little bit, and then then they look at it again, and then it goes to the Planning Commission. And if it meets all of the zoning ordinances and it gets approved at the Planning Commission, we're talking about downtown developments. I'm asking that this get reconsidered and that downtown developments the city council should be able to have a say about downtown developments, because that's what's happened with the Vine Apartments. It got approved at the Planning Commission, and then it's an over and done with thing because it met all the ordinances. I think the city council would have liked to have had some input about a development like that in their downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice. Any other citizen comments? Okay, seeing none, thank you again. We'll close that part of the meeting, and there's no consent agenda. We'll move right to our two public hearings. Our first, considering an ordinance amending section 17.48.120 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to temporary signs. And Zach Smallwood is presenting.
Thank you, Councilman Hales. I appreciate that. So this is a text amendment to amend the temporary sign ordinance. Currently, temporary signs requires an application, approval, and permit from the Community and Economic Development Division or Department. Sorry, excuse me. Also allow temporary signs up to 90 days. However, there is a conflicting language saying in this bottom section, 17.48.130, that signs that do not require a permit. So there's some conflicting language there, and we're trying to clean that up. Hold on. Because I forgot my notes. So temporary signs are typically what you see: grand opening signs, coming soon, political signs. As we kind of talked about in the committee of the whole a couple weeks ago, this all kind of came about because of a Supreme Court case, Reed versus the town of Gilbert, where cities are not allowed to regulate content on signs. So we did a massive rewrite of the zone or of the sign code, and it looks like this may just have got missed, this conflicting language. The city recorder brought up that during the campaign season, do they need to get a permit for their political signs? And we had conflicting language. So we are also, one of the things that we're asking to remove is this temporary sticker idea. As you can see kind of on the graphics here, we were requiring a temporary sticker, but we can't find a vendor that can adhere that and be waterproof. It's just not feasible. So the proposed changes, no application or permit would be required. No tracking with stickers, obviously. And then clearly state that signs are not allowed in the public right-of-way or placed on public property. In the committee of the whole, we kind of discussed that if they're there, code enforcement, namely Mark Boren, would go out and get those and take them back to our office, and we would contact the political or whoever owns the sign, and we would get in touch with them. So the Planning Commission did vote 6-0 to recommend approval of these changes. So we are we and the Planning Commission recommend approval of section 17.48.120 temporary signs in the land use ordinance. One thing I did want to bring up, Councilwoman Turner, you brought up the length of time. And today I decided to kind of go through some other cities just to kind of get an idea of what they had as well, because I know you had specifically brought that up. So Midvale, for example, I only did four cities. Midvale allows for 3 months. Holiday allows 30 days for temporary signs. South Salt Lake is 21 days with a total of 63 per year. Mill Creek allows up to 6 months. And then West Jordan is 60 days. Taylorsville, I looked through their sign ordinance, but I couldn't find anything regarding the length on temporary signs. So, any questions or anything I can answer for you guys at this time?
I still have that concern.
Sure.
And would like to change it to 180 days, so we make
Perfect.
sure that we go through the primary. If there's a political sign, that we can go through the primary and as well as the general
Sure.
election. So
Okay.
That would be my.
So that would be on all signs then, all temporary signs?
All temporary
Okay.
signs.
Has to.
Yeah, it has to be all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Diane. Any other questions for Zach?
So I'm assuming that would change if we want it to be 180 days. Do we just add that into the motion?
Just into the
Jim?
motion. Yeah.
Okay. Just understand.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Zach? Okay. Thanks, Zach. Okay, we'll open this up for citizen comments. Are there any comments regarding the temporary sign ordinance? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council. Any questions to discuss or motion?
Okay. I will make a motion, and GL, tell me if this is okay, that we move to adopt an ordinance amending section 17.48.120 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to temporary signs, and recommend the change from 90 to 180 days.
Did you say recommended?
Yeah, I shouldn't have said
Just
that.
change, that's fine.
Okay.
Get it, yeah.
Okay. And that's it.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Brooke?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right, thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Zach. All right, next public hearing is to consider ordinance amending chapter 17.78 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to accessory dwelling units. Zach Smallwood. I love it how Melinda nods her head just at me. And I'm good, Melinda, to follow, see? All right, thanks, Zach.
Yeah, no problem. So this is a request to amend the text for 17.78, the accessory dwelling unit ordinance. So why are we here this evening is mostly from the state. The state legislature passed House Bill 82, which is an attempt to help with affordable housing in the city. The state legislature sees accessory dwelling units as an opportunity to allow for additional affordable housing. This bill requires that every city allow attached ADUs by right, prohibit cities from limiting the size of the actual ADU, and prohibit cities from requiring more than one parking space for those attached ADUs. Just a little bit of history. The Murray City Council approved ADUs back in 2009, and since then we've approved about 67 of those. That doesn't seem like a lot really at face value, but a lot of people haven't necessarily come through the formal process. They were just built, and so those kind of exist as they are. Let's see. And you can see I've provided this little graph that kind of shows you 2018 was our biggest year where we had 13, and those were going to the planning commission. So it was about every other planning commission, we at least had one ADU. So it was pretty crazy that year. So ADUs kind of defined. There are two main types of ADUs that we're talking about here. There are the attached, which is on your left-hand side, which means it's somehow incorporated into the house, either as an extension of the main floor or above an attached garage or second level or even in a basement, as opposed to detached, which is wholly separated from the building. It is, yeah, that's all I really have to say about that. It's detached from the building. So, so like I kind of mentioned from House Bill 82 and in the new proposed code, we are removing the size limitation where it used to be 1,000 square feet or 40% of the main dwelling, whichever is less. I actually think this is going to be a good thing. We do have a lot of small homes in Murray that are only 600-700 square feet, and they would like to do ADUs. And I was unfortunately had to tell them, sorry, you can't do more than 200 square feet for your ADU. And so this is going to be, I think, kind of a welcome change. We removed the allowed number of bedrooms. That was another thing the state required. reduce the parking to just one additional. So that does mean that all single family homes are required to have 2 off-street parking spaces. So this would be a 3rd off-street parking space that they would have to be required to have. And then would be allowed. This is one thing that's outside of the state mandate, but allowed in any single family dwelling where single family is allowed as a permitted use. So for example, in a multifamily like the RM15 zone, it allows for single family homes. So we're saying that you can have an ADU in there where before you weren't allowed to have an ADU, but you could build a duplex. So it just made more sense that way to allow ADUs in those zones as well. So detached ADUs, there are only very small changes. Most of the requirements stay the same. You're required to have a 12,000 square foot lot. Like I mentioned, the size limit, 1,000 square feet or 40% of the main dwelling. No more than 2 bedrooms and 2 additional off-street parking spaces. We also, I apologize, I didn't mention this in the attached ones, but we were changing the detached and attached from a conditional use permit to a staff level review. That helps cut out some of that red tape and get people getting into these and working on these a little bit more. The Planning Commission was very in favor of that. They had asked for us to look into, because they'd become pretty much just forms. Our staff reports were just the exact same thing, just with very small changes in them.
Hey, Zach,
Yeah.
on the detached, pardon me, you still have just one service for power and gas and everything. It all
Yes.
goes through the same meter.
Yep, that's how we differentiate from a duplex and an ADU, is that the ADU does have to have connect to the main house for all its utilities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So short-term rentals and post-planning commission changes, we kind of talked about this briefly at the committee of the whole. We are asking that, excuse me, I've just lost my train of thought, that the proposed ordinance be reflect the penalties for the short-term rentals, because the Planning Commission did recommend denial of the short-term rental ordinance. So we're not sure how that's going to go in the future. So instead of leaving that up to chance, we thought we'd put it into the actual code. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, GL, but I think that was updated in the ordinance that was drafted for this. Yeah. Okay. So an accessory dwelling unit permit, we are going to require an application form, site plans, and floor plans, and affidavits acknowledging that they're going to be living in either the primary dwelling or the accessory dwelling, and that they also will not be renting out a portion of it as a short-term rental. Again, this would be a staff level administrative permit, not requiring Planning Commission approval. Staff findings, it calls out specifically to support ADUs in the general plan. We think that this is going forward and helping kind of make it easier for people to do that. Encourage housing and life cycle housing for people. And let's see. And then also the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to 4 to positive recommendation. So with that, we are recommending that the council adopt the proposed modifications and approve the proposed text amendment for Chapter 17.78. Any questions I can answer so far?
Questions for that?
Yeah, with the ADUs, we do have owner occupied, right?
Yes. Yeah, that will not be changing.
Okay, good.
I love it. Spoiler alert.
Yes.
I caught that.
Yes.
Any other questions for Zach?
Just the same question I had at the committee of the whole, just kind of explain the differences between ADUs and short-term rentals.
Sure. So yeah, I apologize. Thank you for reminding me. So an ADU is meant for more than 30 days. We're encouraging people to have that additional unit to be used longer than 30 days, where short-term rentals are specifically less than 30 days in nature, typically hosted on Airbnb sites, VRBO, things like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Zach.
I just want to say, Melinda sent me an email. Thank you. Getting back to me about a question I had at Committee of the Whole about was there any downsides or complications of allowing ADUs to have separate addresses, and there were none found. So when you're ready to make a motion, I would just like to include an amendment to the proposed ordinance that they can have separate addresses.
Okay, we'll discuss that after, and we will now open this up. Thank you, Kat. We'll now open this up for citizen comments. Thank you.
I've discussed with Jared Hall about
Will you give us your name?
Catherine Litchfield.
Thank you.
I'm a Murray citizen. And the 12,000 square foot rule only allows a handful of ADUs in Murray. He said there are just a handful of lots that are 12,000 square feet. And I, for one, live on 0.22 or 0.23 acres. That doesn't qualify. Just the Mill Creek City is just dealing with this, and I went to their meeting there, and they had the 12,000 square foot recommendation from the Planning Commission, but they reduced it to 8,000 square feet so that citizens would have more opportunity, more citizens would have more opportunity to participate. And I think that that's really critical, and I will be lobbying some way if that doesn't get considered, because, and if you ask Jared, I mean, I think you can count on one hand the number of lots that would qualify, is what he said. So I don't really understand that. And then I have a question I hope that I would like to have dealt with is the tiny homes versus the ADUs. The tiny home, does it slot into a RV category, where it can be parked there and lived in for a short term, a long term? A tiny home is on wheels. When does it happen to become an ADU? Do you have to put it on blocks? I just don't know if tiny homes have been addressed at all, because that's sort of the trend. If you go online, all the YouTubes, all these little tiny homes, which are great. And actually, I support them because their design requirements are very tight. They have to be about 3 meters, or they always give it in meters, 3 meters and like 8.5 feet wide. They have to be able to travel on the roads. Whereas, so in a way, a tiny home is a nice design requirement, a nice design spec. I don't think it exceeds any of the design specs of ADUs, but I'm just confused as to how does that fit in? Can one be pulled in and put on blocks, or is it like an RV? I don't really understand. I don't know what the codes are for living in an RV either. So that's a question that I think hasn't been addressed by a lot of cities. But I'm mostly concerned about the requirements being extended to 8,000 square feet. And so it will be available, because it's supposed to help families increase their income and make their family arrangements. And we're really not offering anything to anyone at 12,000. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll address that. Okay, after. Okay. Thank you. Any more citizen comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the citizen comments, and then Zach, thank you for addressing that.
So just regarding the 12,000 square foot, there are a number of properties that would qualify for that, both in the A1 zone and in our single family zones. And to be completely frank, we have looked at reducing that size, but we wanted to keep the current ADU ordinance as streamlined and as close to the HB 82 language as possible. There was additional ADU changes that we want to make in the future, and that was one of them, is to reduce that size. So that's entirely up to the council if you want to take that up now under advisement. for those detached ADUs. Also, tiny homes. Tiny homes are definitely they're a big trend, and it's something that a lot of people, we get probably a couple questions about it every month. Just people wanting to do it, and we don't really have an avenue for that at this point. We require that houses be on foundations, which is kind of I can't say the word, never mind. I don't know why I try big words. I have a master's degree, but I can't say big words. So yeah. So it's definitely something that we would like to look into a little bit more, is how we can facilitate tiny homes on projects, especially as potentially ADUs as well. So that's kind of my response to that. Any questions or anything?
Any questions for that?
Just to follow up with that. So when people call in with questions, what is the answer today of, can I have a tiny house as either an RV or an ADU on my property?
The large answer is no.
Just no. Okay.
It's mostly no, because we require that houses be on foundations. So if they're on wheels, they would fall under kind of, we have a mobile home zone, and those are just in 2 specific areas where there are mobile home communities. So
when tiny homes are put on a foundation, do they then become, so my aunt just got one to live in my cousin's backyard.
Sure.
Awesome. She lives somewhere else. It's definitely not nearby in somewhere. But they had a cement pad that they took the wheels off and chonked it on there. Is that now on a foundation, or is it just adjacent to foundation?
That's a great question. That's going to get more into building code.
Okay, sorry.
Than I really understand. But in essence, yes, if it were on a foundation like that, we don't care if it's unless it's exceeding that 1,000 square feet or 40%.
Okay.
If it's less than that and it's on a foundation, then we don't mind. And as long as it meets the regular development requirements.
So that's just something we need to build into our code a little bit more clearly going forward.
Yep.
Okay. So similarly, if the 8,000 square foot parameters is something that maybe we were going to transition towards anyway as a proposal, is there a reason not to do so tonight to make it more immediately accessible?
If that's something that the council feels comfortable with doing, I know that staff, I think we would support. GL looks like he's ready.
Could I address that real quick?
Absolutely.
The reason for this change tonight is because of the change in state law. We felt like before state law changed and passed this bill, that we were very protective of neighborhoods. And that was this is kind of pulling us against our will into this new section of law. And we don't know how it's going to turn out. So instead of changing even more than they've asked us to, I think the approach has been, let's just do what we're required to do and see how that turns out for neighborhoods. If it turns out really well, then maybe you can come back and look at this another time at reducing that 12,000 to 8,000.
Would you want that to go to a planning commission first?
I would recommend that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I would prefer more information on if we went from 12 to 10 or 8. I'd like to see what that looks like and have that in a public hearing. So,
Melinda?
Yeah, I was just going to say we could have GIS pull the information of the number of lots in single family zones that are greater than 12,000 square feet. But I don't think there was like a literal comment that there's only, 5 or 6 in the city. So that would be one thing that I think you would want to consider before changing that, is how many homes that could actually impact. And that's information that, give us a little bit of time, we could pull that. But we may, if we wanted to reduce the lot size, we probably would also want to just look at the other areas in the code and make sure that we weren't, we haven't really looked at it from that perspective. So we oftentimes, we're pretty methodical as we go through and think through like what impacts what unintended consequences. And if we were to want to move in that, I would say we could bring that back to the council at a future meeting after it goes through planning commission. We have a little bit more time to crunch data. But as GL mentioned, the real reason why we're here tonight is to be in compliance with state code, which I believe goes into place by the end of October. No, beginning of October. So that's why he's here, to keep
You'd
me.
have to be looking at.
That's right.
You'd be looking at setbacks as well.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. So it doesn't just because a lot may meet a certain amount of square footage doesn't mean that a tiny home could fit on that. I'm familiar with Miss Litchfield's lot. It's not very deep. Yeah, it's very shallow. And so, you know, we would need to look at those type of things. And so would there be an opportunity to maybe adjust some of those so that maybe a corner lot could have that? So it does get really complicated pretty quickly, but we're confident with the 12,000 square feet tonight. And if the council would like us to look at that in the long run, I think we're absolutely willing to do that. Just would want to take a little bit more time.
Sorry, I think the other thing that keeps popping in my head is I think there's a possibility, right? And depending on what area also, if that's something we can look into as well. Like if it's, for example, my father-in-law would love to put a tiny home in his backyard, but he only has 6,000 square feet and that wouldn't be something that he can do. But if there's instances or situations where we could in certain areas, like the historical district, where it's a super tiny house or something similar to that. I don't know if that's something in the future to also look at.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely, you're on the right track with some of the things that we could consider writing into things. I mean, also we could say, you know, 12,000 square feet lots in the R18 zone, and maybe not have it applicable to R16 if there was some reason after we evaluate kind of the surrounding land use, if it would make sense that it would work better in R18 but not necessarily in R16. So, you know, there's a lot of things that we could do. And then just as far as the tiny homes, I think that is a really great concept. And I know that some of the larger cities have put ordinances in place to allow for those things. Wanting to maintain, you know, the residential area or the feel of neighborhoods, I think it's best to kind of let some of those bigger cities vet through the issues before we start bringing that into Murray. And I think it was 2 years ago that Salt Lake City, I think, made a amendments to their code to allow for those things. I don't know how well that's worked for them or how it's implemented, but looking at those kind of case studies from other cities, I think would be very advisable for us so that we get it as right as possible in Murray from the beginning. And if we were to want to look at tiny homes, I think that would be a whole separate ordinance. We would have accessory dwelling units, tiny homes, and then I think to just go back to the question, just putting a tiny home, removing wheels and putting on a foundation, I don't think that meets the building code requirements. It still would be like a mobile home, but having a home that's actually where it's embedded into the foundation would, I think, meet the definition of that between those. So.
Any other questions for Zach?
And I just wanted to clarify too, the 12,000 square foot lot is only required for detached ADUs. Attached ADUs are still allowed on any size single family lot. So I wanted to make sure that we had that distinction too. So.
Yeah, I'm probably not supposed to, am I? But go ahead, please, real quick for me.
From a building standpoint, I would just like to request that you study the size of an RV, currently 8.5 feet by 45 feet by 14 feet. The size of an ADU that you've permitted at any size, and the height is 20 feet. And the size of a tiny home, which would be akin to an RV, only half, most of them are about half as long, 20 feet. So when you get, and also the ease, the type of foundations in an architectural sense, foundations are also considered foundation as pylon foundations. It's not always a perimeter foundation. So these things become so close and so shifting that I just don't think you can, with fairness, exclude one, word like a tiny home and know what that is. That is so close to an RV and so close to an ADU. And actually, a tiny home is way smaller. You've just permitted ADUs at 20 feet, and anything in the backyard now runs at 20 feet high. And Jared Hall was considering reducing, such as the garden shed where you put your lawnmower, you permitted as twice as high as this roof. So things have sort of slipped through the cracks, and I think someone needs to look at little models of it or measure them, draw them out, because this concept of size, this concept of permanence, how you make something permanent, it's very, it goes along with construction architecture, and I'm sure there's code. So I think it needs some more study before just throwing out, coloring a word like tiny home in a bad way. And it's not that I am interested in putting one on my lot. Perhaps I am. I'm always speaking for the general. I just think that the rules should go smoothly across everyone. And I don't want to see, things just popping up because one person wants them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll bring it back to the council. Questions or a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do you need to close the public hearing?
Oh, yeah. Let me
Sorry.
close that. Before I close
Please
that.
remind me.
Before I close that, since I did that, is there anybody else that would like to comment? Okay. I'll close that. Thank you, Rosalba.
All right. Then if it's in order, I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance amending Chapter 17.78 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to accessory dwelling units, and that's with the amendment to allow ADUs to have a separate address.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Brooke?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Zach and Melinda. Okay. We have no business items scheduled. Mayor Camp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've done a pretty good job of keeping the council informed with our council communications each week. But I do have one thing I want to bring up tonight, and that is I know that most of you, if not all of you, are aware of our second Olympian medalist that from Murray City, Ali Ibanez, who is a member of the bronze medalist women's basketball team in the Paralympics, is from Murray. She currently is attending school in Illinois, University of Illinois, and doesn't live in Murray currently, but we've been in contact with her, and we kind of wanted to do a recognition for her. And she will be in town this weekend to visit some friends and family. So she's coming in Friday and leaving Monday, I believe. But we've been working with her directly and have decided on having a little open house for her on Friday afternoon between 4 and 5 p.m. at Murray Park at Pavilion 1. And that went out on our social media feed today. I wanted to make the public aware of it, and I think you were all probably been made aware of it, but I just wanted to mention it again. We're pretty excited to have another medalist from Murray. She attended and graduated from Cottonwood High School, and she'll be a senior this year at University of Illinois. So anyway, I want to invite you to come by between 4 and 5. We'll have a little presentation. I'm not sure exactly what time we'll do that, but stop by and meet her. And then if you have any questions for me.
Any questions for the mayor? Thank you, Blair. All right. If nothing else, please, Rosalba.
Sorry.
You got me.
I'm just going to take a quick opportunity and just recognize that this month is Hispanic Heritage Month, and it goes from from September 15th to October 15th, and it's to recognize also Mariaites who have been here, like myself and my family, who have been here since the 70s and love Marie and contribute to Marie. So if you know of anyone, let me know, because I would like to personally recognize them myself, but also just to share with our community of our brothers and sisters who are of Latinx background or Hispanic background. And as being Mexican American myself, I could say with pride that I'm very happy to be Mexican American and to be in Murray and to recognize others like myself. So thank you so much for the time.
Thanks, Rosalba. That's awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Going once. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.